people treat you like you're the old you, but it feels like they're talking to someone else that isn't you anymore, if that makes any sense.
You aren't in there anymore, but like everyone still keeps looking for that person, and it's just they ain't home.
Yeah.
You got the wrong number. My brother calls me, and as soon as I saw that my brother was calling me, I knew
something's not right.
Yeah, he never calls me. And someone's dead. I was like, who is it? Didn't faze me, didn't bother me at all. I was just like, all right, man. And he was like, okay, pretty shaken up about everything because he's never gotten that phone call before. And he was like, okay, well, we're gonna all be hopping on the Discord and everything if you want to join us and talk. And I was like, no, man, I'm kind of tired from like this commute and everything. I'm probably gonna like grab a beer and like turn on a show and go pass out. And he was just like, what?
And he was offended by it. Yeah.
My brother treated me really, really weird.
That's a perfect example. I remember when I got the same call. I believe what he said was that was gone or something like that. And I was like, it did take a second to process, and it did mess me up for a little, but I processed like everything, process it quickly, move on, adapt and overcome. To this day, I'm over it. This is the thing I'm talking about, is I can't understand. It's like I find it really
Hold on, I'm
hard
having technical
to
difficulties. I can't stop jumping.
You got great form though.
He does have fantastic form.
That is fantastic. Oh, it's getting faster.
Oh no! I've lost control of my body. I didn't even know you could jump in VR chat.
Oh no, it's contagious. Oh no. I still got that Burger King.
Oh my god, bro. It's 4 days old now.
I think it's, I got it on, what, Monday, I think? So I think it's 5. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, yeah.
What you're saying is you lied yesterday and said it was 3 days old.
I think I was confused. I would say it was never attribute to malice what can be contributed to stupidity.
Okay, grabbing a drink with a VR handset in my hand is an experience.
I got a man drinking on one side of me. I got another man in the fucking nicotine. This last Sunday, it wasn't until like 5 o'clock I went out and had my first cigarette of the day. And after that, I had like maybe 2 more, 4 to 5 cigarettes a work day. And when I come home, I typically smoke 2 on my walk home. And then I'll smoke another one when I get home with my roommates. If I'm leaving for work and everything, it's still chain smoke or block, maybe. Maybe that's why I have like issues with like phlegm and shit blocking my throat.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Putting a bunch of unknown substances into your respiratory tract causes secretions.
No, actually,
tell me more.
I'm pretty sure these issues persisted before I started smoking. I think it's because my nose doesn't work. Because like my
I'm sure
nose,
you wouldn't
like,
see any improvement from quitting smoking, though.
Was that sarcasm? I feel like that was sarcasm.
16 in high school, I had a friend. He supplied me with smokes and alcohol, and I began my smoking career. Managed to quit after seeing what the end stage of that looks like from my EMS experiences. Drowning in your own lungs is not a good way to go.
Spoiler alert, I haven't gotten to that stage of smoking yet.
Don't worry, you will.
Look,
I shouldn't start smoking to impress a girl.
am I the only one who got started smoking in the Army? I just got so fed up with bullshit, so unbelievably stressed. I made it all the way through my first deployment without smoking. And eventually I was just like, yeah, let me bum one. I was immediately hooked.
That friend that got me smokes, oftentimes I would literally just show up to the classroom he was in and be like, hey, you want to leave school? I bet. And we would just get in my car and just drive somewhere in North Carolina. Sightsee, blast the national anthem while my buddies halfway hang out the window with a broken off American flag we stole from someone's yard. Just general teenager mischief, I guess. You know, probably some things that would probably catch me a vandalism charge nowadays, but I guess the statute of limitations is up on that, so we both were going into the military, so we were both like hyped up on, yo, oh shit, patriotic, we're the best, and we'd roll over all of the enemies and all the frankly the childish thoughts of just best military in the world, all that. He was going into the Marines, I was going into the Army, of course. I don't believe he made it through training. He broke the living shit out of his leg in Marine boot camp, so I guess we were both doomed. And our own separate ways. In my senior year, I spent more time not at school than at school. I was in junior ROTC in high school. The made going into the Army itself, the obvious career path. The highest aspirations I ever had was to be an 11 Bravo, an infantryman. When I went and took the ASVAB, big generalized military test, be like, how stupid are you? I scored in like, I think it was the low 90s. My recruiter was basically like, well, it'd be a big waste for you to just go infantry. Why don't you be a medic? That's how I sort of ended up my chosen career field. Pretty much is as simple as that.
Now I gotta ask, did you sign up for 4 or 6?
4. I mean, I didn't even make it through all 4 years of my initial contract anyway, so it's kind of a moot point, even if it was a 6-year.
Oh,
That's a funny story.
When I got the orders in whiskey school as to where I was going, I mean, I hadn't heard too much about Fort Hood. When I got to Fort Hood, I was lost as absolute hell. If it wouldn't have been for him, I'd have been probably shit out of luck till someone either like collected me or
They would have collected you, alright. You would have been human trafficked.
Because normally what's supposed to happen is they make contact with your receiving unit once you're there, and your receiving unit is supposed to organize picking you up, getting your paperwork done to process you into the unit and all that. Well, that didn't happen for me. Not only did I not know what brigade I was going to in the first instance, no one at reception seemed to fucking know either. That's about when I realized that this was not exactly going to be too good of a posting.
What were the early days like when you had finally got into where you were supposed to be?
The ideal mission of a medical company like that is we're supposed to set up field hospitals. Well, you sure as hell don't have much use for field hospitals in a peacetime environment. A unit in First Med, we're straight medics. Well, what the fuck do we do then? The answer is a whole lot of nothing, actually, and that's what got to me a lot at Fort Hood. This feeds into a lot of the disappointment I had at Fort Hood. Imagine you take a fresh-faced soldier like that who's all pumped up, I'm gonna go fucking save lives, hell yeah, and you put him in an environment like that. At that point, it just seems like life is a farce. You have all this training, all this knowledge, and you spend 2.5 years just doing grunt work and bullshit and being frankly abused by leadership because they're just as miserable as you are. As the saying goes, shit rolls downhill. When you're lower enlisted, you're the bottom of that hill. Of all the fucking places I rolled to be, horrible
Bro, you rolled
places
a nat
you could
one.
end up. I ended up in the biggest do nothing fucking unit. These are very perishable skills. If you don't constantly do and practice them, when it comes to do them in a high stress environment, you're gonna fuck up. It's just how it is. And that's what caused a lot of burnout. I signed up and I went through all this training at Fort Sam, certification through the National Registry of EMTs, all of this training, constant repetitions, constant practice of all these skills. You get to a unit like this, it's a fucking nothing burger. Like, we didn't do anything.
What do you think realistically would happen if your unit was ever called up for like a real world scenario?
We would kill people. Out of pure fucking incompetence. Some of the medics that we had in that unit had been in that unit for so long, they damn near lost any ability to actually medic. The few times we actually ended up going to the field and we would run mock scenarios, some of these people didn't know their fucking asses from their eyebrows. The last time they saw anything medical related was however so many years ago at Fort Sam.
I have to piss, dude. I've held it for as long as I can. So sorry. It has to come now and now.
It's all right.
I'll be like less than 5 minutes.
I'll piss as well then. Piss break.
Piss break.
Sorry if I'm getting a little impassioned because this is an extreme sore spot for me. There were times when I was in the military that I got to actually be a medic, and I loved it, and it's why I'm a paramedic today.
The running story.
You've heard this story before. I should be telling that the 2 times I enjoyed myself in the military were times I was away from Fort Hood and away from the vast majority of my unit. A squad of our medics got dispatched out to Fort Knox to cover cadet summer training, marching around, learning basic soldiering, getting dermatitis in strange fucking areas. Anyway, we had a central little HQ area, and we would dispatch medics out to the cadet regiments, and it was fantastic. It was you, a battle buddy, a radio for each of you, and an aid bag. You were responsible for that company of cadets, wholly responsible for their health care, and should an emergency happen, coordinating resources to get that cadet to whatever care that they need. There's this cadet damn near running down the middle of the road, and he's yelling for a medic. I kind of had a deer in the headlights look for a moment, and then I remember I looked over on my shoulder. I was like, "Oh, that does say medic on that, doesn't it?" Pretty much was an "oh shit, that's me" moment. So I go running after him. I'm like, "Well, what is it? What's the issue?" He fucking just takes off the other fucking way without elaborating at all. I take off after him. He rounds a corner particularly fast. I don't corner as well as he does and absolutely eat shit and just go tumbling into the floor. And he turns back and looks at me. He's like, "Doc, are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was fucking amped up on the adrenaline. I'm like, "Oh shit, here we fucking go." We get into this day room and there's a gaggle of cadets and an equally large gaggle of drill sergeants. It was just a simple heat casualty. A cadet had not drinking the appropriate amount of water and had fallen out on an exercise and had been brought inside. And we're talking like seizures at this point. Completely unresponsive, starting to like tense up. The training kicked in once I got in there and I realized what I was dealing with. Had everybody clear the fuck out because there was way too many people in there. On your heat casualties, you have to take a core temperature, right? And considering this is a female soldier doing something like that while all of her peers are in the room, no go. Because yes, I had to silver bullet this girl.
Go ahead and explain silver bullet.
Yeah.
So when we take a core temperature on a heat casualty, this does in fact involve shoving a thermometer probe up someone's ass. That's why I had everybody clear out so I could get to work with some space, but also like protecting the dignity of the patient at that point. Rectally is actually the best way to get a body temp on somebody.
I thought this was like a part of cooling down the core temperature.
The idea of a silver bullet is to get the core temperature on somebody so we know how hot they are.
I got told the silver bullet was a metal rod that was frozen, right?
That's what I heard.
And that got shoved up your rectum to cool down your core temperature.
Who taught you that?
That was just word of mouth amongst the jokes. I think it was a fear tactic.
I mean, it's already unpleasant enough that like a thermometer up. No, we do not use a cold metal rod up your ass to cool you down. Dealing with heat casualties was kind of an unexpected thing in a training environment like that. Went ahead with just doing the usual treatments for that, cooling and fluids. We transferred them to local EMS to take them the rest of the way to the hospital. We don't have the communications with the hospital that they do, and showing up to a hospital without notifying them tends to get you some very pissed off nurses. At the time, this was the craziest thing I'd ever dealt with. This was the first time I had ever actually dealt with a critical, life-threatening situation. Walked around the rest of that day feeling like I actually like had wings and could fly. Having actually done what I was trained to do, it felt amazing. It's just something I just enjoyed doing. I mean, mind you, I joined at 17. It's the only thing I've ever done in my life. And being thanked by the drill sergeants afterwards, being like, "Hey, Doc, you did great." Being called that as a medic, like that's a thing for medics, is being called Doc. It's a title, for lack of a better term. After this heat stroke incident, we got called in to do a briefing on proper hydration. I brought it in an IV bag with a 14 gauge needle, and I was like, "There's two ways you can hydrate. You can either drink your water properly, or when you inevitably fall out, I can take this big fucking needle and we'll give you this bag of fluid into your veins." I cringe thinking back on it. I was trying to like be stern and
make it fun.
I was trying to be fun but still stern, but kind of utterly failed at it.
He's going for another drink. I'll be right back. You guys are welcome to continue. I'm just gonna grab myself another little drinky drink. I'm taking my hands off.
I thought you said you were gonna barf if you got another drink.
Well, I'm not gonna barf anymore. Fuck you.
There's several ammo dumps in and around Fort Hood. We were tasked to basically do a rotating guard shift for those. The team for it was a pair of lower enlisted with an NCO. Occasionally the command team would come by just to check on us. What had happened was the NCO occasionally has to go out. They get in their little Humvee, they go check the fence. Usually the NCO would communicate to the lower enlisted, "Hey, I'm gonna go do this. Make sure you got eyes out on the gate." The NCO in question goes off to do his checks. He doesn't inform me and doesn't rotate the other enlisted member through to watch the gate. Our company command team, our captain and first sergeant, decided to pick that exact time to come show up to the gate and check on us. Just looking into the guard shack like wondering, did they just up and leave this completely unguarded? I went to go take a piss. I walk out there and there's Commander and First Sergeant standing out the gate. I'm like, Hey, sir. I go up and let him in, and they immediately start fucking just tearing my ass. NCO returns from his rounds. Instead of being like, hey, I fucked up, I didn't tell one of them to like rotate through and all that. He said that he did tell me, which he definitely did fucking not. It wouldn't have been the first time I got a bullshit counseling for something, but getting blamed by an NCO for something that was objectively his fault. How jading and frustrating that has to be in a unit that operates with that ethos for years. Who do you think they're going to listen to when I say, hey, sir, that's not how that actually happened. He did not tell me to go ahead and rotate up. It would have been a non-issue for me. He would have just had to pop his head in the shack and be like, hey, I'm gonna go do my rounds. And you go like hold down the gate for 5 minutes. That's all it would have fucking taken. And he could have just said, hey, I forgot to do that. But no, he felt the need, because he knew he could get away with it, to just throw me under the bus for it and get me in trouble, instead of taking the responsibility for it. Why would he?
I had one really good NCO. If we were to mess up something, was to come and tell him immediately. He's like, tell me about it. I need to know about it. I have the rank to catch that heat round. I will fuck you up on my own time. He had very just punishments, but if it's you that catches a heat round from First Sergeant Commander, it's going to be a big problem.
An NCO is a non-commissioned officer. They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, but their general purpose is to be the lower level leaders of soldiers. Just in talking between the two of us, you've seen what good NCOs are like and what not so good NCOs can be like. I didn't complete a full 4-year contract. I was chaptered out. The long story short of it, one of our field problems, I ended up with a pretty severe knee injury. I basically couldn't run. We were hammering a grounding stake in for one of the generators, and while I was helping guide it in, they missed with the sledgehammer and hit me full on in the knee. How it did
sledgehammer to the knee?
Yes. This wasn't just like a whole like runner's knee kind of situation. It's a significant
I was a
injury
medic
to
till
my
I took
knee.
a sledgehammer to the knee.
Pretty much. I still have occasional phantom pains if I stand on it for too long. I went to medical regarding it. It was documented. In fact, I actually had a profile regarding no running, this, that, and the other. It's kind of like a doctor's note that says what you can or can't do. They can be overridden by a command at that command's peril. A commanding officer can override profile. However, should you be injured further because of it, it's their ass. Fort Hood leadership being Fort Hood leadership, the profile was largely ignored. I was continued to be forced to run on this rather severe knee injury. It ended up developing and getting worse to the point where my run times and the physical fitness test started to suffer. It got to the point where I got in the danger zone of failing one, and then I ended up failing a PT test. When that happens, you end up flagged, which means you can't be promoted, a whole bunch of other BS. You have to do corrective training, which only caused the injury to continue to get worse. I couldn't keep up because it got to the point where it was just agony to run. I did what I could to push past it, and I still came in under time. Nothing I could do, pretty much. I brought up my concerns repeatedly. They were disregarded and viewed as me just trying to be a shitbag and not wanting to run. Failing a physical fitness test, and obviously they're going to start the process to basically kick you out, and that's what ended up happening. I definitely could have fought the issue. I believe I mentioned it to him that I did actually consult JAG on it. Military lawyers, basically. I consulted them at one point and basically came to the point where I could have easily fought that chapter because me failing those tests was directly against my profile. Regardless, at this point, I was just so broken down. I fell into a hell of depression there. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about fucking up. I just didn't care. No matter what I did, our leadership was going to fuck me up regardless. Because at this point, I was labeled as the unit shitbag. Once that happens, you're basically the punching bag.
It's difficult to correct that trajectory once they've pigeonholed you into being the punching bag.
Exactly. I was so disillusioned with the military at that point. It just was like, why bother? I'm gonna get hemmed up regardless of what I do. All the proceedings went to chapter me and all that. Got to the point where I was eligible to do my DD-214 brief and wanted to do it, and to my surprise, I got an honorable discharge.
You have to fuck up supremely supremely to not get an honor roll.
No,
no.
What's supposed to happen? I'm being chaptered. I'm being kicked out of the military at this point.
Medical.
That's
though.
you're not
And
supposed
after
No,
6
no,
months,
not medical.
This wasn't
not medical.
med board.
They administrated you?
Yes, yeah, they administratively discharged me. They didn't med board me. This is why I say I could have fought this.
They were chaptering him for the basis of he failed a PT
Bro, you
test.
rolled the dice on having an administrative?
I didn't care.
At best, he was gonna get a general. At worst, a dishonorable discharge. And they fucked up his paperwork so fucking bad. Honorably discharged him on an administrative fucking chapter.
You're
to
assuming
fucking
the
pull
worst.
that off.
I'm assuming that it came to somebody's attention when they were fucking typing out the paperwork and they saw the reason for the administrative and were just like, nah, honorable.
That was my theory for the longest time, that they did that just because they knew. It was kind of an open secret at first that I was intending to contest it until it got to the point where I finally just broke one day and I just realized I just didn't care. Got to the point I just wanted the fuck out. You want to call that going the easy way out? Fine. There's still that residual guilt there, and I know it shouldn't be there, but
Most people will shit on you for not completing your contract, yes. I
People
understand
die.
why you feel that way, but you literally were fucked. Let's look at it this way. You could have plugged away all those years at Fort Hood, finished your contract, but you've probably, in that time frame that you still would have been at Fort Hood, probably done more on the streets as an EMT than you would have done the
That's
entire
true.
time you were still there. It's actually cool that you brought this up because I wanted to point this out about most people who serve. Most people who serve come away with it feeling that they didn't do enough. You know, I did 5 deployments, and there's guys that I knew that did twice as many, 3 times as many deployments. I don't know that I've ever met anyone who walked away from the military feeling like they had fulfilled some magical quota, some magical amount of service to feel good about what they've done.
I think you put it really well in your original interview and everything. It really struck a chord with me when I was in my particularly dark place. I think I'm going to quote you pretty well here, saying that I felt like I owed it to the taxpayer, I owed it to the gunship community, I felt I owed it to like the ground parties and everything. I felt like I owed everybody everything, and I owed myself nothing. At the end of the day, the only person who will ever care about you is you. So make sure you take the time to take care of you.
the very last day, I owned a car at the time, 2015 two-door Honda Civic, and I somehow managed to pack everything that I owned into the back seat, trunk, and passenger seat of that damn thing. I think I remember I stopped by his barracks room, we had a chat. I don't remember what the fuck we talked about.
It doesn't matter. I think we have one last cigarette together.
One last cigarette together, and I drove on over to the Copeland Center to attend my DD-214 brief. The moment I had that DD-214 in hand, I'm officially a civilian. Got in my car, parked in the parking lot of my barracks, and just sat on the hood of my car for about like 30-40 minutes, just having a couple smokes. I just couldn't believe it was over. Like it just that it ended like that. Honorable discharge certificate in hand, officially civilian, and had a long drive from Texas to North Carolina to make. So sit there and just collect for a moment. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really know. The moment passed, got in my car, started playing music, and left Fort Hood to Freebird by Leonard Skinner.
That's my boy.
Call it cliche, but it is what it is.
You know what I chose when I drove out
I'll
the gate
fully
range?
admit to it. What?
School's out for summer.
I picked Blurry by fuck, I don't even know their name. It's some no-name band. Everything Blurry looks the same. It's a really depressing song. I will say, if there's anything I've missed the most from Fort Hood, it's our little random spontaneous trips to the PX to go get fucking Chipotle.
And just fucking people watch people
And
doing
just
like
people
stupid
watch
shit.
like lieutenant colonels who should have been at fucking work or something. And we're just like, what the fuck are you doing here? You know, like, go back to work.
Or just wandering down to that gas station by the gate, just on a whim.
The shopette.
Because usually it'd be you going to get cigarettes, and I'd be like, I'll go too, why not?
Is leaving the military ever not like a messy divorce?
That's a good way
the
of
worst
putting it.
breakup. It's the worst breakup you'll ever have.
I got out of the military and I got straight into paramedicine pretty much. The nice thing about the military is that it provides you with a national certification, so I was able to bridge that into having a North Carolina state certification. Got employed fairly rapidly after leaving the military, after a slight adjustment period of getting my shit together mentally. A paramedic working on a 911 ambulance.
people be like, oh, partying with veterans must be crazy. Partying with veterans is fucking getting pissed drunk at the Chipotle and getting arrested for public intoxication.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, getting drunk with veterans, it starts out fun and wild, and then you do stupid shit, and then the night turns into just trauma sharing. Once everybody is like, we need to fucking be less depressed, and then you go, like, set a car on fire and then get arrested. Wait, did you...
Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. What did it happen? Uncle Sam is listening. Once like all the veterans have realized they've been trauma sharing for too long and they're too depressed, quick, we need to spike the atmosphere, burn a tree, you know, like.
You need to buy me a lot more fucking alcohol before I tell that story.
Oh, motherfucker, say less. I want to get you fucked up at Chipotle. They sell Dos Equis there. You want to get pissed drunk in the Chipotle.
We're doing Chipotle shots.
Chipotle shots. Shotgunning Dos Equis at the fucking Chipotle.
If you could tell everybody in the world one thing, what would it be?
I probably should have prepared about this. I don't do well when I'm put on the spot. If you come into an emergency room with something stuck up your butt, be honest about how it got there, because believe me, we've heard worse. That's all.
I enjoyed your one thing to tell the world.
It was good, it was good.
It popped into my head. I was like, oh yeah, butt stuff.